Okay, so for 22, it says, how do you solve a quadratic inequality? Make an example with both types, greater than and less than, with one equal and one and the other not. Show your answers, show your solutions on the number line and in interval notation. Okay, so we're going to do probably like 2 or 3 examples to really make sure that we're solid on this. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to write down, or just draw an x and a y. And let's think about the quadratic x squared minus 9. That's a quadratic shifted where? So the the tricky part is knowing whether or not it's this versus this. This is shifting x's, which is changing on the x-axis left and right. This is shifting the y value because you apply the square and then you subtract 9 from it. You're changing the y value. So this is down 9. So I'm just going to make a dot and say down 9. And then it's a parabola opening up because it's a positive quadratic, so we're going to draw something like that. And can you guys tell me where it crosses the x-axis? Yeah, and just remember you're solving for when it equals 0, so x squared, add the 9 over, and then when you take a square root, how many answers do you get? 2. You get plus and minus 30, right? Okay, so just using the graph, I want us to answer this question. When is x squared minus 9 less than 0? What does it mean to be less than 0? You're negative, right? So let's look at the y values. Are these y values positive or negative up here? What about down here? What about up here? So when is this function below the x-axis? When is it negative? Between what and what? Ugh, someone left a negative off my paper, I'm sorry. Between negative 3 and 3, right? Are we including negative 3 and 3? No, because I want to know when am I less than. Negative 3 and 3, I'm actually at 0, true? So I would say negative 3 to 3, and you said not including, so I'm going to put parentheses. And that is the interval notation of the answer. Yeah? Now on the number line, I know you guys probably learned it one way. I tend to do it this way with parentheses again, just because I prefer parentheses. They help me show, but a lot of people use the open circles. Do y'all remember that? Okay, so negative 3 and 3. That would be the answer on the number line. Okay? But now I want to talk to you about how to solve it algebraically. Because I don't know if you've seen this before. If you pretended like that was an equal sign, what would you do with a 9 if you were trying to solve? You would add it over, right? So let's do that as well. Write this down on your paper. X squared minus 9 less than 0, so x squared is less than 9. Okay. Now, how would you undo a square? You take a square root. Now, when you take a square root, how many answers do you get? It does not make sense for me to say x is less than both positive and negative of a number. I can't put them both there. So what I have to do is I have to put the 3 here, repeat the symbol, and put the negative 3 there. And then I want you to read this with me. What does this read right here? X is what? X is less than 3. X is less than 3. Now read it from the x. X is what? Greater than negative 3. So x is between negative 3 and 3. Cool? This is an inequality. Yep, so this would be an inequality. Okay, so now quick question, because this inequality form is very interesting when you have something like this. Everyone write down x squared minus 9 is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so we should know the answer to this just by looking at it. When is it greater than or equal to 0? Okay, so including the 3's. Is it below or is it above? Above. So we're actually talking about all this space and all this space, right? So what would my answer be? Starting at what? Way over here, starting at negative infinity. All the way until what? Negative 3. And then including it. That is whenever I am above the x-axis on the left. What about on the right? Pick back up at 3, And if you want to do the union symbol, you can. You don't have to. And go over to what? Why am I not putting brackets on infinity? Yeah, it's not a set number. I can't include it because I don't know what it is. Okay. All right. So now let's talk about how we go from here to there. Like say I didn't have the graph already drawn. So same difference or same process. We're gonna add the 9 over x squared greater than or equal to 9. We're gonna take the square root. We're gonna put the positive one on this side. What are we gonna do? Good. Repeat the symbol and put the negative 1 on this side, or the negative 3. Yeah? Okay. Now, let's read this statement all together. Negative 3 is greater than x, which is greater than 3. Does that make sense as a statement, a mathematical? Can negative 3 be greater than something that's greater than 3? No, definitely not. So you have to break it down, and you have to say, okay, what does this read to me? X is greater than or equal to 3, and that's this piece. And then read it from the x. What does this piece say? Good. X is less than or equal to negative 3, and that's this piece. Okay? So I always tell my students, like, if it makes sense as a statement, then it's between the two. If it doesn't make sense, then it's the exterior, because they don't include each other. Or x is in between them. It's one or the other. Okay, so I have one more type of quadratic inequality. You don't have to draw this one down because you already have your examples, but I would like you to pay attention for just a minute on this, okay? If I asked you to tell me when is x squared, let's go with minus 4x minus 5. When is that less than or equal to 0? Can I, like, add the 5 over and take the square root in this case? No. Why not? Because I have this 4x hanging out. Yeah? If I have just a quadratic and a constant, absolutely do that method. But if I have a linear term, then hopefully I can factor. If not, then the best I can do is the quadratic formula. But can I factor other factors of negative 5 that add up to negative 4? I hope so. There's only 1 and 5, right? 1 and negative 5. So if I factor this to x plus 1 and x minus 5, doesn't that tell me where this function crosses the x-axis? Where does it cross? Good. So at 5 and at negative 1. So can you guys tell me where this function is less than or equal to 0? Between negative 1 and 5, including or not including them? It says equal to. And at negative 1 and at 5, we are equal to 0. And so there we go. So that would be my answer, negative 1 to 5. Okay. Hopefully that helps.